Welcome to Courtside Moms. I'm your host, Wendy Sparks. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Iris James, the mother of Evan Turner, who is currently signed with the Minnesota Timberwolves. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as she shares their basketball story. This episode is so good that we had to split it in two. Here's part one.
I do it naturally. I do it naturally, baby. Baby. I'm every woman. It's all in.
Iris, thank you so much for wanting to spend some time with me today to talk about your fantastic son, Evan Turner.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. But more importantly, it is a great platform for us mothers to talk about what we actually go through having a professional athlete among our midst. So the world does really do know what we're going through, because sometimes they don't have a clue.
Yeah, that is so true. So every week we bring true stories to our listeners to give them the opportunity to learn about the lives of professional basketball players. However, these stories can only come to light by the one individual who loves them the most, which is the moms. So please tell us, Iris, where does Evan's story begin?
Well, actually, he wasn't planned, first of all. A lot of pregnancies aren't. But anyway, he wasn't planned. He was supposed to be a little girl, which is what the doctor told me. And the day that he was born, he was a 10-pound baby boy. So I had asked the doctor, so where is my Aubrey Lynette? Because you told me I was having a girl. I'm sorry, Miss James. I was like, this is a boy. So it took me to the day we had to go home to name him. I was so disappointed.
I was going to say, how'd you come up with the name? I don't think Aubrey would have suited him. I don't know.
Well, actually, I always read the baby books, but I didn't have a name. So I was working for a utility company in customer service, and my girlfriend said, "What if you have a boy? What are you gonna name him?" And I said, "I don't know. I didn't think about it." So she gave me a couple of names, and we came up with Evan after I researched it. However, I was supposed to have a girl, and her name was supposed to be Aubrey Lynette. And my girlfriend and coworker, who just passed away last year, had all boys. And then I had all boys. So her middle name was supposed to be Lynette. But Aubrey was a unisex name, and I just liked it. It just rang, Aubrey Lynette. So, and it was significant for being strong and beautiful and that kind of thing. So, but he came out a big head boy. So I finally decided to name him Evan. However, I didn't have a middle name, and his aunt, Ethel Turner, gave me Marcel. She said, "Well, you can have this name." I said, "Okay, fine." So he wound up being Evan Marcel Turner. And his dad, James Turner, lives in Ohio, grew up in Ashtabula, and he has a self-proclaimed name. So he always kept balls in the young men's hands to drive me absolutely crazy, because I had every kind of ball you can think of: football, baseball, basketball, volleyball, soccer ball, Nerf ball, you name it, I had it. And so from those humble beginnings, I guess I knew my children would be athletes. So, and he started there with a ball in his hand. He couldn't talk, but he had a ball and he was bouncing. And so that from that time on, and then when they were younger, the two children, my two youngest boys, are 13 months apart. So he was definitely a surprise. I did not plan him. Darius, my middle son, was actually planned, and I didn't think I could have any kids. And there's 10 years difference between my oldest and my middle. So for a long time, I didn't want any children, any more children.
Yeah.
They wouldn't tie my tubes. They was like, Miss James, we're not tying your tubes. I said, but I don't want any more. You're not married. You only have one child. We're not doing it. I'm like, goodness gracious. So anyway, I planned him for 2 years, the middle child, and I didn't plan Evan. And I said, well, I guess I'll get this girl. And lo and behold, no girl. So
Yeah. It's like that
yeah,
ta-da moment.
exactly. So what's meant to be is meant to be.
That's it. That's it. Well, your 10-pound handsome boy just had a rough beginning. I mean, he had chicken pox, he had pneumonia, asthma, the measles, and he had all this before he turned 1. Then he was hit by a car by the time he was 3. I mean, Iris, how did you manage to give attention to Evan and your other 2 boys while dealing with all of these issues?
Well, by the grace of God, of course.
Mhm.
Fortunately, my oldest son was getting ready to graduate and go into high school, and then my middle son was a blessing because he was able to help me with Evan because Evan couldn't talk. We couldn't understand anything that he was saying, so he was the only one who could understand what he was saying. But when he was sickly, I just didn't understand what was going on. What was
Yeah.
going on? I didn't know when you come home from the hospital and well, first of all, I was supposed to have my tubes tied when before I left when I had him. That didn't happen. So the doctor left, and I'm like, they're getting ready to numb me, knock me out. They're like, Miss James, we can't do it. I said, what you mean you can't do it? Well, the doctor left. I said, doctor, what? Left? Oh my goodness. Like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. So I told their dad, I said, don't even look at me, don't talk to me, don't touch me. Matter of fact, go sleep on the couch. I'm
Get
not
away.
doing it. Like my
Get
tubes
away.
tied.
Well,
And that's when it started. I came back home and he egg child across the room, and my girlfriend was a nurse, and I said, "Girl, I don't know what's going on. He's throwing up across the room and all this kind of stuff." And that's when it actually started. He was like 6 weeks old, and from that time on, it was one thing from another. I mean, between that and pneumonia and measles and pink eye and breathing and you name it. And you didn't have time to respond because you was too busy taking care of him. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Because
right.
nothing was ever simple for him. You know what I'm saying? You get the measles and I got to take you to the hospital because he's almost dying, that kind of stuff. So you didn't have time to think. You only had time to react
Right.
to get yourself through that. And fortunately for me, the other 2 were healthy enough. And their father was a blessing in regards to making sure that the other 2 were okay while we were trying to take care of him. So while I had struggles with him, with their dad, he still came through with the boys, with the younger 2. So that was actually a blessing. So I pay tribute to him for helping me get through that. Otherwise, I don't know what I would have done if I was doing the solo act. So he really helped out a lot. So,
Right.
and of
Well,
course, God,
of course. Listen, God before everything, right?
absolutely.
In an ESPN article, you were quoted as saying on the day Evan was baptized, something miraculous happened. You had a feeling that he was destined to do something special. Let's talk about that a bit.
Well, the day generally I get my kids baptized early, but because
Mhm.
Evan had been so sickly, we had to wait over a year to get him baptized. There was no time to take him in, and I picked his godmother and I set the date, and we finally were able to get him into the church. And when we took him up to the fountain, and when the minister laid the water on his head, a revelation came over me. I don't know if it was the spirit. I'm just telling you, I knew at that moment that this young
Mhm.
man, this little boy, was going to be something special. Actually, I thought he was going to be a minister because the reverence that he paid to encompass that water, it was like, give it to me. Just, I want all that you have,
That's
you
right.
know, experience just seeing that. I mean, I was like, did y'all see that? Oh, it's just like, oh my God. So my son, Evan, has struggled all of his life. He has worked very hard for everything that he has gotten, and it has made him the person that he is. And I think if he hadn't had the struggles and the challenges that
That's right.
that he's gone through, then he wouldn't be the person that he is. He's very idealistic. He does the right thing. He doesn't understand why people don't do the right thing. You know, I had to like, look, you can't make people do what's right. You only have charge of you. You know, you only have charge of you. You can only do and answer to what you do. They have somebody to answer to when they do their thing. So you have to
That's right.
focus on you. And but that was a miraculous day for him. And the journey from there on was, it was a struggle. It was a struggle to talk. It was a struggle to write. It was a struggle to whistle. It was even a struggle to pop his fingers. And so his closeness with his brother, and I think if it wasn't for my middle son Darius, Evan wouldn't be as good as he is along with the struggle, because my
Mhm.
middle son, everything comes very easily. I mean, he's just talented that way. Didn't have to work hard for anything. But
Mhm.
Evan had to work hard for everything. Every journey that he took, it was never easy. Never. Yeah, even when he went into the NBA, it has been a struggle. So a good struggle, I guess, in hindsight. However, going through it, it can be very trying and testing, for both the family, him, and myself as well. So, but God has been good and blessed us. So,
Listen, amen. Like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So
absolutely. So, but it's been a blessing for him to be able to hold a ball, to bounce a ball. But once he started playing ball, let me tell you, whew, I mean, and I introduced him to other stuff. Let me tell you, we had baseball, we had track, we had volleyball, we had. He even got selected to play soccer, and I
okay.
told him, I was like, "Look, you pick one. We can't do both. I'm sorry, it's too demanding. I can't be in two places at once, and
Right.
I'm not traveling overseas. I don't have the means. So you decide whatever it is you want to do is all right with me, but you only can do one." So he's still stuck with basketball.
What a choice he made, Mom. So let's talk about that. Like, at what age and how did basketball enter his life?
I think, other than his father introducing him to sports and basketball, um, I think the Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen era was really
Mhm.
relevant for him.
Right.
Um, and like any other young kid, that was their idol. So once you have a ball in your hand and you have something to aspire to, um, I'm going to be you know, that's what they both said. I'm going to be Michael Jordan and I'm going to be Scottie Pippen. You know, I'm
Of
going to be a
course.
millionaire. You know, and so when I realized that that was their aspiration, you know, I was like, you know, that's great. I mean, I'm really happy that you are seeking that out. I said, but you know what are you going to do if you can't be a pro basketball player? Otherwise, you have to have a backup plan.
Yeah.
He said, Mom, I said, no, you really need to have a backup plan. I said, so you guys need to think about that, you know? And so he said that he was going to be an attorney. Uh, and, you know, first he told me he was going to be a millionaire. So,
Oh, okay.
okay, well, how are you going to do that? So you had to think a little bit more. I'm going to be an attorney. I said, okay. So now you have a backup plan. However, I think in his mind, he never let basketball go. Never, ever. That has always been his dream, and he has worked hard to get there. Although, you know, we don't get where we are without help.
Right.
But that self-determination, that drive, that hard work that he put in, just actually just paid off. I mean, he got recognitions that I just, before he even, like it wasn't AAU, it was Park District Park basketball, and people are coming up to me, and, I don't even know him. This coach came up to me and said, that's your son right there. I said, yes. And he said, well, I'm interested in putting him on my team. And he showed me. I said, "So that's your son who just clotheslined my baby, and you want me to put him on your team?" He said, "Well, yeah, actually." I said, "After the game, maybe we can talk." I said, "I'll think about it."
Yeah.
But yeah. So he, people saw things in him that, as a mom, you just want to keep your children involved in things that they're interested in, keep them off the streets, keep them with positive things to help them grow as young people and explore. Um, so people brought it to me more so than me really acknowledging that he could really be something special in basketball.
Right.
He was a special young man, period. But realistically, what are your chances? 1,000,001. That's a lottery ticket right there. And my chances have never been good with the lottery.
Well, most
So
of
I
us as
kind
a
of kept
kid.
them grounded and humble and realistic and real time to make sure that I don't want them to be devastated if that dream doesn't come to fruition. So, but yeah, it has been instilled in him all his life. And his older brother played basketball. So actually, I do have two Hall of Famers in my family at this time. My older son is a Hall of Famer for Robert Morris University, and Evan is now a Hall of Famer for the Ohio State University. So I guess it just runs in
Wow.
our blood. And actually, before the boys were old enough, Michael Jordan played with Scott Williams, who happens to be part of our family, my mother's second or third cousin. So I guess it does run in the family.
Wow. See, that Iris, I did not know. I don't think we've ever spoken about that. Many conversations we've had. You're like blowing me away right about now. You have
Yeah.
two Hall of
So
Famers. Okay. Okay.
yes. So I guess it's just in the blood. And
Yeah.
with his learning disabilities, they told me that his gross motor skills are perfected. His fine-tuned motor skills, which is when he had problems writing and stuff like that,
Yes.
that speech impediment and stuff impacted that. So that obviously played a role in it as well. So
How did that affect him academically in school as a child?
academically, Evan, because of the speech impediment, first of all, he had a severe overbite. He had little bitty teeth when he was baby, and when
Mhm.
his permanent teeth came in, oh my goodness, they were huge. They were absolutely huge, and he would get teased and all this kind of, Mom, can I get
Mhm.
some braces? Can I get some braces? Can I get some braces? So once we got the braces, well, actually, we got the speech therapy first, but he had
Right.
to get out of classrooms, and you had to go through the IEP or whatever the heck it's called now. So we did get him help through the school system. We also Evan also had socialization issues as a baby. He wouldn't even play with his brother. So when I recognized that through a public channel station, I was able to get him in school prior to preschool and kindergarten to get the
Mhm.
assistance that he needed to
Right.
help him acclimate himself to just being social with other people. But I prayed when he went to kindergarten. I said, Lord, please let him like his kindergarten teacher. Please let him like him, because if he didn't, he wasn't going to learn anything. And
Right.
fortunately, he really liked Mrs. Niehaus, and thank God. I prayed though. I really prayed. So yeah, that journey with learning disabilities just made him work that much harder.
Mhm.
Because I think he was frustrated when people said, "What did you say?" We have to call
Yeah.
Darius. Darius, can you come here? Because we don't know what he wants, and he'll say, as he could say, never mind, you couldn't even get that out. Never mind, because he didn't have the patience. He's like, I'm not going to keep
Right.
saying it. So,
Right.
and I think it just made him work that much harder. And because he had to fight to talk, because he had to fight to speak, then he had to fight to talk over his brother when he could talk. So he's just been fighting and fighting and fighting all along to be heard, to speak, to write. The only thing that did come easy for him was playing basketball. So
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it seems like basketball was his saving grace. It's where he was able to just be him, and something that he
mhm,
was able to master. And it's obvious, like he was able to do that, right? So
absolutely.
let, let's talk about high school. So he went to. I mean, it seems like this is where it all really started to begin for him at such a young age. I mean, he went to St. Joseph's
Yeah.
high school, became a key player in his position.
Well,
I
he
mean,
wasn't supposed to go there. Actually,
oh no,
he did not want to go to St. Joe's. Him and both my two young boys played Park District ball, and they got recognition then. And so they also so when he got ready to go to high school, he wanted to go to this other school, Fenwick. And so both schools were private. And I said, okay, well, let me call a school and see how much. First of all, I got to see how much it costs, see if I can afford it.
hmm
And then second of all, I need to make sure it's going to be a good fit for you. And by calling the school, no one would return my call.
wow.
No one would return my call. And so his older brother went to St. Joe's, and the coach had called me, and I said, well, Evan, we need to go up and at least talk to Coach Pingatory. But his story is I forced him to go there, but technically I didn't. He will swear to this day, Mom, you made me go to St. Joe's. You made me go to St. Joe's. And I was like, no, I cannot give people $10,000 and they won't even return my call. I'm not doing it. You
Well,
got to go to school somewhere. So make up your mind. So he thought he got that's where he was going, and he thought since I took him up there, that's where he was going. Well, that's where he wound up going to St. Joe's, and it was a mediocre year. His freshman year, he wasn't very tall. I mean, he was average, but over that summer, the child grew 6 inches, and voila.
but I mean, he didn't want to go to St. Joe's, but I mean, did he know who Coach Gene Pingatore was? I mean, he coached Isaiah Thomas. Like, did
I don't think he recognized that. He's a very headstrong individual, and that wasn't prevalent until he didn't have any choice but to deal with what was going to happen.
yeah,
But I think he felt like I betrayed him because he couldn't go to the school that he wanted to go to, or it didn't matter at that time.
right.
So he was being recruited at Oak Park River Forest because we lived in Oak Park, and they were upset. Well, why ain't he coming here? Well, because I think where he wanted to go. And then he was upset because I would not take him to Fenwick because, I'm not going
Right.
to be treated a certain way. And he went to St. Joe's because that's where his brother was. There was a track record there.
Well, there you go.
There was a
Well,
track record.
being there, I mean, he was top player at his position. He was considered like the top 25 prospect in the country in his class. He was given special and honorable mention by both the Chicago Tribune and the Associated Press for the All-State honor. I mean, it ended up being quite the school for him and quite the basketball start. I mean,
Yeah.
come on now. There's no wonder, you know what I mean? He got so much attention from NCAA Division I schools. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so when you watched play in high school for Coach Pingatore, what was it like for you to see now Evan get so much different attention?
I probably didn't put too much stock into it because I'm probably my main focus was to keep him humble and grounded,
Mhm.
first and foremost, because he went away to a church event and he was in Utah, and he was like in 6th grade and they were recruiting him then. And I was like, stop calling here. He is still a child. let him be. He's don't call here anymore because he's not going anywhere, you know. So I
Yeah.
wanted him to have a childhood, first of all. And
Right.
then I realized that education was paramount in our family, and that was a means. Basketball was a means
Mm-hmm.
for education because while I had a decent job, I would never been able to afford him to go to a Division I school as he has. So basketball for me was a means for him to get his education to be able to take care of himself once he got into society. Um, Plans were different and things turned out different. Although he was recognized widely, there was a rivalry between him and Chicago school, Derrick Rose, and
Mm-hmm.
there was a whole lot of stuff going on there. So you go through that stuff and just try to make sure he stays safe, make sure he doesn't let the hype get to him. Because at that point, I think they were kids were signing autographs and stuff like that. You know what I mean? They were
Yeah.
asking for autographs and stuff like that. I guess that's when that stuff started. And I was like, Mom, we got to get the autograph. I was like, oh, okay. Never been one of the things I wanted to do. But, you know, only thing I want to do is meet Denzel Washington to this day, and I've yet to meet him. Came
That's so
close,
funny.
but never met him. So,
Came close is good.
but just keeping him grounded
Yeah.
and recognizing that he does have a talent. I've always tried to inspire them to do the things that they like to do, and support them in those efforts. So, but I was really bored with just going through the motions, doing what any other parent would do, taking them. Although we did get a little overzealous at one of the games at St. Pat's, and Coach Pingatori said, "Oh, you can't be screaming like that." You know, I was like, "What?" I'm like, "What you mean I can't be screaming?" I said, "Oh, I know how to handle this." I went to the other side of the room, or the other side of the court, and said at half court, and that's why he couldn't hear anything that I was saying, anything I was cheering, anything like that. So we fixed that problem.
Right. So Evan actually had a very special relationship with the now late Coach Pingatori. Can you tell me how he played such an important role in Evan's life?
Coach Pingatori, I think it was his freshman year or sophomore year. Coach Pingatori, particularly after Evan shot up those 6 inches, and Coach Pinga told him that he was going to be a professional athlete.
Mm-hmm.
He actually told him that. He saw it in him and he told him. I don't know how much Evan actually actually believed it. Because I remember I had to come up and pick him up, and Pingatori was saying, "Miss James, I'm trying to get him to listen to me, you know, because he was trying to teach him this catch and throw, you know, shoot the ball, catch and shoot. That's what's called." And so I said, we were leaving out the gym, and I was like, "Evan, why aren't you listening to the coach?" "Ma, he don't know what he's talking about." I said, "What you mean he don't know what he's talking about? That's Coach Pingatori. He's the coach. He didn't put Isaiah Thomas went here. What you mean he don't know? He don't know." I said, "Let me tell you." He said, "Mom, it's hard." I said, "Yeah, it's hard. Anything worth having is worth working for. So you might want to listen to him."
Yeah,
So
I
I
actually
believe.
read that. I actually read that where Coach Pingatori was saying, I just kept telling Evan, let me coach you and let me do what I have to do. Just give me that opportunity because you will be an NBA player later on in your life. And it's beautiful to see how much love that Coach Pingatori had for Evan. I mean, this man missed his own National Coach of the Year award ceremony just to attend the 2010 NBA draft to support Evan. I mean, who does that?
Well, actually, I didn't know that. I knew he was there.
Yeah.
But I did not know that he actually did that because that was an exciting time. I was going through my own arena, on my own emotions going through that time. But Evan is a very special young man and very intuitive. And once you are his friend, once you get in his circle, it's very difficult to get in his circle. But once you're there, and it's a lifetime friendship. He has a friend from grade school, actually kindergarten, that he played t-ball with, who actually comes around. We're invited to his wedding, which ain't gonna happen now because of COVID. But once he has a friendship, you have to do something really serious to do that. So it doesn't surprise me because of Evan's internal makeup that friendship up until till he died. We were just with him in Portland before Coach Pingatory died, so it was
Mhm.
very devastating. And that year that Evan came up, he lost a friend through suicide, and
No.
I had to, I called to the school to make sure, my son was going to be okay because
Right.
the way they delivered the information. My son did not go to sleep. He even reached out to the mother to say how sorry he was. And he
Mhm.
had befriended this young man. So it was very devastating for him. Even though Evans had struggles, there are other struggles that kids go through that you don't even imagine. And so those loyalties that he had to his friend, to Coach Pingatory, was inevitable because of who he was, but also who Pingatory was because he was still coaching until the day he died. So
Yeah. Yeah.
his love of the game and the love of the youth of inspiring them will live on. Particularly in our lives as well as that community in Westchester, Illinois.
I was watching Evan talk about Coach Pingatory and in an interview, and he just got choked up. And it was just beautiful to see just the love that Evan had for this individual in his life. You know what I mean? So it's so inspiring. So
Yeah, matter of fact, when Isaiah Thomas came to the funeral, he was like, I'm so glad you had him in Portland. I'm so glad you had him in Portland. God has a plan for everything. So you just never know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. But um, Evan, with this journey that he's been through, he has blessed a lot of people. Unbeknownst to me, I find out in hindsight, the things that he's done. He's not a big promoter of what he does um, with his philanthropy because he doesn't want that recognition. But it's definitely always there.
it's very humble of him.
Yeah, he
Very,
doesn't.
very humble and
He,
grounded. Yeah.
yeah, he doesn't like a lot of attention like that.
No. Well, he's an NBA player, so I
He's
don't
gonna
know how
get it.
that's going
He's
to
gonna
happen.
get it. He's gonna
He's
get it.
going to get it
So
whether he wants to or not. So,
yes.
so now let's move forward from high school. We're still in high school. Evan was offered several scholarships by several Big Ten conference schools, and his final choice was Ohio State University. So let's talk about the schools that, because I'm sure there was many, many schools. First of all,
Yeah, there were over 25 Division One schools um, for him. And we had stacks of mail. I mean, you can imagine. We had boxes and boxes and boxes,
yeah. Wow,
boxes and boxes and boxes of mail.
that's crazy.
And we had to force him to make a decision. Coach Pingatory said, Miss James, we got to make a decision. And so I was like, Mom, I don't want to go. I got to do this. I said, Evan, we have to go see Coach Pingatory and we got to figure it out. And so he was forced to come up with three schools. And I think Wisconsin, Indiana, and another school. Ohio State wasn't even on the list. And I wanted him to go to Wisconsin because I love the recruiting process.
Hmm.
And I love Bo Ryan and I love his genuineness. And so Evan went to the NBA camp and actually got sold on OSU, the Ohio State University, with his peers that were going there next year, John Diebler and I forgot the other little boy's name. But anyway, they talked him into it. And that's when he said, Mom, I'm going to, I said, you going where? That's so far away.
Yeah.
But he just like I sent him to St. Joe's, he wanted to go there, and it was history in the making. While I didn't want him to go there, it was the best place for him to be, and while he didn't want to go to St. Joe's, it was the best place for him to be. So that's what happened,
You know,
and he went there.
yeah, well, getting a resource is helpful. I mean, my son too received boxes and boxes. And at the time I was like, I don't know, it was Division 1 or Division 2 or whatever. And it was so hard to narrow it down. Like you were saying, you had 25, and how do you narrow it down to the top three? And that's such a grueling process. Oh, it's anyway, because for me,
Oh,
everywhere is away, right? I mean, we're in Canada, so it didn't matter. Regardless, he was crossing the border to go to school. So
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. It was a trying time. It was exciting and exhilarating for him because he's getting mail, and but when it came time to make that decision, that was kind of hard for him to have to force him to do that.
right, right,
But he finally came up, and the ones he came up with didn't wind up where he was going anyway. So, but that journey of picking that college. Um, I had people calling me from Ohio talking about what's I hear about Evan. I said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
yeah,
Coach Mata was paid attention to him and all this kind of stuff. So, I was like, I ain't that comfortable about him going 5.5 hours, 6 hours away, and his dad is down there. I'm not feeling that. But I gave them the opportunity as an adult to make that their first decision. So I didn't want them to tell me in hindsight, you made me go there. No,
right,
this is
right.
your decision. I'll help and guide you, but ultimately, the decision is yours. And he made it.
So what was it like as a mom to finally give in?
Well, I opened my mouth and said it was his decision. So I didn't have a
Like
choice.
Hawaii, here I come. Yeah.
I didn't have a choice. And I can't have him throwing those words back over my. You said this is I can make my decision. I was like, yeah, I did say that. So after making sure, that they have that opportunity to do that, it's just my role to help make
Right,
sure
to support.
that it is the right fit. So I had to do my due diligence and speaking to the coach, going down to Ohio just to make sure to come familiarize and make myself comfortable with his decision. So I did do that. So I got a little red flag, but this is where he wanted to go. So it is what it is. So we're gonna support him and do what he wants to do. So
Yeah,
and the first 2 years were very difficult, and he even had considered transferring, because his first choice was North Carolina State. He wanted to
mhm.
go to the ACC, and the coach left. And so there went his dreams with ACC. So he didn't go there. So this is how we got to the Ohio State University.
So what was it like for you to go back and forth to Ohio? I mean, I was reading and Evan was saying, it was difficult for him because you were going back and forth by bus. It was late at night and he would worry. I mean, what was that like for you?
Well, I think I probably didn't worry so much about me as making sure I was there to support him. And fortunately, I had had brain surgery. I had QI malformation, and I had to have a decompression done. And so I wasn't working at the time. That was a struggle too, because I lost my job and
Right.
his last year of school. So, it's by the grace of God I was able to get through any of that. And fortunately, they had this bus called the Mega Bus, and you can buy. I couldn't believe you could get tickets for $1. I was like, "This is not true. I don't believe it. I just not gonna believe it." But his second year, I'm planning ahead. As soon as the schedule come out for that whole year, for that whole first semester, I spent $35 to go to OSU. So
Wow.
I would come up in time for the game, and I would leave at the 12 o'clock bus at
Hmm.
midnight and get back to Chicago at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And that's how I did.
There's nothing better than a mother's love, eh? It just doesn't matter when he's playing, you're there. It doesn't matter the danger. We don't think about that. We just get up and go.
Absolutely. That was that my goal was because I had one son in college in Chicago, and then I had another son in college. So I had three sons in college, And so I had to get back because I had to go back so I can support the other son. And then
That's
I had
right.
to support the other son. So there, you can't support one without supporting
Without
them
the
all.
other.
So
Yeah.
yes, so that's why the journey was the way it was, because I didn't want to I wanted to make sure each young man knew that they had my support and that
Right.
I'm there for them. So that's how it
He,
went.
he talks a lot about you helping him through his difficulties. So, as a single mom, what were those years like for you?
Well, I treated them all the same, and one thing is that I was just real with them about life, and I didn't kind of sugarcoat anything. I think when you're raising young men
Hmm.
and you want them to be well rounded, you want them to be fathers, you want them to be leaders, you have to give them what it's going to take to be that man when they have to take on those responsibilities and roles. And so I was just real with them in terms of making sure they understood what the concepts were and what the consequences were of decisions that they made, and help them see that you can't get anywhere unless you do the work, and you can't get there by yourself because you need
That's
somebody to
right.
help you. But I think when Evan was a young boy in kindergarten, and Darius as well, I started reading quotes, and I have two quotes that Evan has used through his lifetime, and this is what has helped him. I said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Hmm.
And hard work and perseverance brings on great rewards. And the last one, which is an additional one, do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do.
Right.
And me always treating people like I want to be treated. And I would tell them those were parables or morals or whatever you want to call them to help them get through the things that they had to go through in school and work. I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink it.
That's
You
right.
gotta do the work. I got mine. I did mine. It wasn't easy. I wasn't an A student, but I got graduated. I did what I had to do. And so those quotes are what we have been instilled in my young men, and probably has taken Evan as far as he's gone. So those are
Right.
the things that help him and help him, you know, um, to fall back on. Aside from Ma, what do you think about this? Mom, you know, I guess as I have young men now, I am grateful that when they go through challenges and struggles in their life, they may not talk to me every day. Because I always say, can you just call me once a week? Can y'all
Right.
just call me once a week? I would greatly appreciate that. That doesn't happen. But if something is going on in their life that's paramount, they will pick up the phone and call me and say, Mom, what do you think about this? This is what's happening, and I can be grateful for that.
Of course. They always call back home and ask mom her opinion, right? No matter how old they are, they're still
Uh-huh. Or
mom.
what should I do? What should I
Yeah.
do? What should I do? You know what
Yeah.
I'm
How do
saying?
I make
So,
this? Yeah.
yeah, I think I look at Evan now. I think he looks at me, even though a lot of people tell me, he always says, my mom says this, my mom says that, never knowing, I never knew that he was talking about me like that. But now, when I'm in a group setting with him and his
Mhm.
friends or whatever, I see how he looks at me. It's like he's studying what I'm saying. And so I see it now versus when they were coming up, because I was in the managerial mode.
Yeah.
I'm in the advisor mode now, but
Mom mode. Yeah. Different. It's different. You're a whole other mom then than you are now. Best believe that, right?
absolutely. It's just, and I got that quote, Derek, when Richard was at St. Joe's and they had speakers for freshman night. And speaker, I don't remember his name, but I remember the phrase. He said, the most important investment that you'll ever make in your life is your child. And it is so very true
Absolutely.
if you have children.
Absolutely. You can buy the nicest house, you can wear the nicest clothes and the shoes, but your children, man, that's where it's at.
Absolutely. It's priceless. And if you perceive your life like that when you have children, the way you handle your children and raise your children will be geared towards that. So,
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it for part 1 of my fantastic conversation with Iris James. Please don't forget to tune in next week to hear the rest of this episode.